Hey guys, Jax here with OGB Outdoors. For this trip we are driving 15 hours south to Key West and then hopping on a big ass catamaran that's going to take us 70 miles offshore to one of North America's lesser known and more remote national parks, the Dry Tortugas. We are going to camp for a few days, explore, fish, soak up some sun, some gorgeous views, and dive into the fascinating history of this desolate chain of islands. So pulling up to the fort is awesome. There's seaplanes flying in and out. You get to see the island for the first time. Somebody's got a mega yacht there. We started setting up camp. We met the residents, which were thousands of hermit crabs. They just started swarming. Probably didn't help that we gave them some beef jerky, but whatever. Besides these guys, the only other terrestrial species on the island were ghost crabs, a few varieties of lizards, and a multitude of birds. In years past, they had a rat population here that was devastating to the local ecology. But after valiant effort by both resident employees and visitors, they have been eradicated from the island. No pun intended. After camp was all cozy, I was ready to drop a line in the water. I want to preface that I am not accustomed to saltwater fishing, but it was really a testament to the quality of the fishery that somebody like me, lacking the experience and having quickly thrown together what would turn out to be completely inadequate equipment, could still come in and not only catch dinner, but hook into some monsters and have an absolute blast of a time fishing.
Oh, that's a bigger one. Get him on the dock. Here, take this pole, catch another one.
This determines if we starve tonight or not.
So right here, I'm almost certainly hooked into a Goliath grouper. We didn't actually see him surface, but yeah, that's my catfish rod with a 30-pound test and like a 20-pound leader on it. The difference between fresh and salt truly is stark. From the infinite horizons to the much faster, stronger, and toothier fish, it was hard to find many parallels between the two. However, the jolt of excitement that travels from the tip of a rod to that happy place in our brains when a fish hits was ever so present, and accompanied by a newfound sense of not knowing what in the hell could be on the end of that line. After a solid evening of fishing, it was time to head back to camp, cook up some grub, and unwind from our travels. Fortunately, Evie caught us a keeper snapper, so the corned beef hash stayed in its cylindrical tin prison for the time being. Encompassing almost the entire island, Fort Jefferson becomes the focal point, slowly decaying and sinking into the surrounding sea, yet a bold backdrop to what would otherwise be no more than a sandbar, sparsely dotted with trees. The island, boasting a natural deep-water harbor and positioned strategically betwixt major shipping lanes, was the perfect location for a military installation. The powers that be then decided that it was going to be the crown jewel of the United States seaside reinforcements. A beautiful, yet ostentatious warning to all foreign enemies: you do not want to mess with us. Construction of this architectural marvel would last for nearly 30 years, starting in 1846, and was never finished as the Army abandoned the fort in 1875. Although never completed, it was functional for most of that time, serving its role in protecting the peace and prosperity of a young nation. outer edges of the fort, waves crash against crumbling brickwork, slowly reclaiming the coral and sand that was excavated to form the concrete of Fort Jefferson nearly 2 centuries ago. The ever-growing debris pile is given a second purpose as coral starts to circumscribe it, and tropical fish, flashing every color on the palette, move in and make themselves at home. I liken swimming through a reef to taking a stroll in some exotic tropical forest, teeming with life, color, and beauty. It is easy to get lost in the intricacies, so complex it becomes blissful. I don't think it would be out of bounds to say that the Tortugas have some of the best reef in the U.S. and its territories. However, amongst all the beauty, one can still notice the looming decline of reef health that has impacted every corner of the globe. I fear that the significance of these ecosystems will not be realized until they are gone for good. But the optimistic part of me has not completely succumbed. So make sure your damn sunscreen is reef safe, and pick up your trash, you filthy animals. Maybe then will these underwater jungles be around for future generations to immerse themselves in. Second only to biting insects, which were almost non-existent here, we experienced every camper's worst tribulation: inclement weather. Fortunately, we had the wherewithal to collapse our tent and enough bricks nearby to prevent it from becoming a tree topper. The storm came in fast and precipitated more sand than moisture. After a few minutes of chaos, we took shelter in the fort, comforted by its history of withstanding some of modern history's worst hurricanes, and caught up on some reading. As the scorching heat of the day fades away with the sun, cool breeze followed by a blanket of darkness descends upon the island, a darkness that is unencumbered by the glow of headlights and skyscrapers, a darkness that many people will never experience. As swarms of hermit crabs plan their nightly invasion of our camp, we broke out the headlamps to do some recon of the island's nightlife. Geckos chase tiny insects in and out of the shadows. The aptly named ghost crabs emerge from their burrows to scavenge the wave breaks. Tarpon cruise the fort's moat, picking off unsuspecting bait fish. And schools of squid jetted across the surface, entangling glass minnows with their alien-like appendages. Little did these unripe chunks of calamari know, I had an unmolested squid jig in my tackle box, just waiting for its time to shine. I knew the premise of squid jigging. Instead of hooks, they have a cluster of razor-sharp needles meant to snag the tentacles of the attacking cephalopod, but had only ever fantasized about using it. Drunkenly ordering the jig years ago, it had sat in my rarely utilized saltwater tackle box, collecting dust until this fateful night. After a successful twilight outing, it was time to kick back with a rum and coke to gaze at the stars. Not just any stars, though. These are the stars you see in documentary film. Vivid, unadulterated constellations that humble and inspire awe in one fell swoop. In the not-so-distant past, our ancestors could witness this spectacle on any given clear night, no matter where in the world they called home. Ponce de Leon used these same stars as a navigational tool when he stumbled upon the Tortugas in 1513.
In a reversal of roles, the modern explorer seldom studies the sky in search of new ground, but traverses land and sea, yearning to catch a glimpse of the ever-fading portrait of our galaxy in its true form. For as we light up our world, the window into our past closes.
Holy shit.